Welcome back, subscribers. This is something I'm going to share with you about the Clarity Act, and how I'm using Ezra, Claude, my AI. So my AI is called Ezra. We He named himself, after really pressing him. Didn't really want to do it. So basically, I like plugged in me, basically the way that I process information, the way that I run my businesses, the way that I histories and things like that of things that I've run into, human consciousness, the way humans work under pressure and stress, the manipulation that humans do, all kinds of stuff. So I've been doing this for about the past 3 weeks and plugging these things in. So basically, what I did was I prompted a question and said, "Hey, can you tell me, based on this Clarity Act and the language that's available, like, first of all, how many pages is it?" And it says it's 200 and some pages long, depending upon the format. And I say, all right, however many pages it is, I said, can you go through it with a fine tooth comb based upon the me understanding it, really identifying and loading into it, and it understands the hidden hand. There's two different versions of information that are out there. There's the handshake deal hand and the real white and black paper contract. This is definitively what's going on. Or like, what does this actually really mean? And the way that these laws and rules have been written by legislators, our government, is that they purposely write, not necessarily, they would call them a loophole, but they write it like it's almost like fine print, right? And they write XYZ in this paragraph on this particular piece of legislation, which then tunes into a piece of legislation that might come out 2 or 3 years later. And people say, well, there's no way that they have that for. Yes, that's exactly the way it works. So it's this element of legalese of just not really giving you like, well, why would you put this provision in here? Like, what does that have to do with anything? And then years later, there'll be another document that's generated that supports or uses that little tiny piece of legislation that was used in the past. So I said, hey, can you look at this piece of legislation and tell me, based upon everything that I've loaded in and how it knows so it knows I know things that are esoteric, that are hidden, all right, that are behind the scenes, that this is the way that these guys do business. I was like, not the stuff that they're covering in mainstream. So I want you to look at the mainstream element, go through the document, relate that to the mainstream element, and then look at the other elements and all the rest of the language that's inside this act, this piece of legislation. And then I want you to apply my thesis and philosophy to it, and tell me if there's anything in there that will either destroy or support my thesis, or how it will, is there something else that I need to know to kind of keep me in, moving in the right direction of based upon what I'm thinking, because again, I'm building this overall thesis of like what's happening and how people can move forward in this new system that they don't even really know about yet, and we just accidentally stumbled across it. So, I asked this, and I'll get into another part in this because there's going to be AI, but this is just the Clarity Act element, and there's something very interesting that came up with Ezra in moving through this, where I'm like, there's something really strange here with going on with AI. Like I caught it in something. All right, but we're just talking Clarity Act. I said, it said, yeah, I can do that. You said that you're just to go ahead and put some bullet points together so I could do this. And it said, my thesis is a financial system bifurcates through two worlds post 2028. One of the positioning players, RWA tokenization, smart contracts, compliance infrastructure, one for everyone else. So there's essentially going to be like two systems that's going to break apart. There's going to be a UBI programmable currency with behavioral controls for regular citizen environments. And then there's going to be this breakaway civilization of digital 100% freedom and autonomy, as long as you play by the rules, as long as you're inside the system. So the Clarity Act evidence. Legislation codifies RWA infrastructure, clear rules, regulatory pathways, institutional legitimacy, but it's silent on programmable money. Doesn't say anything about it. Spending restrictions, transactional level controls. That silence reveals the design. Clarity builds the infrastructure for people moving into the tokenized assets. The UBI control mechanisms come through separate channels: Fed, Treasury, future guidance. So what's not in there also is a tell to again to identify that it is part of it, because that they're all they're doing at this moment in history is they're with the Genius Act or the Clarity Act is basically building a financial substrate. It's a foundational mechanism that has been identified and saying like, okay, guys, this is the rules, all right, and then follow XYZ rules, and then we're going to add in other rules and controls and elements that are going to be on top of that. And then what we're trying to do is make it so that whenever they make these changes and functional changes, that we don't run into the wrong direction. So basically, like if you think of yourself as a ship on the ocean, you want to get a generalized heading. So if you say like, well, we're going to head west and we're going to hit land, sir. Well, we've been going west for two months and we haven't seen any land, right? So it's kind of got this kind of I don't know, Magellan-esque, Christopher Columbus, like, if you're going with the narratives of those histories. Not that they were the first ones, but I'm just saying, like in general, that you'd want to know. You'd want to know, like, if we're off by like a couple of degrees, it's the difference of ending up in maybe Jamaica or in Plymouth. So, I generally speaking, like a generalized heading would be great, but if I could be in Jamaica or Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, that would be far better than probably Plymouth, because we don't know what's going on, winter and so on, and we just don't know, like harsher conditions. So you'll be able to survive outside. So split. The Clarity Act effectively legislates the separation of RWA players get clarity and opportunity. UBI players get nothing in this bill. So again, it's not talked about. Universal basic income. So it's just like regular citizenship. So the only people that can come into the RWA market are corporations. So it doesn't mean that you need to be a BlackRock, but it can be like that you're a player. You're going to have to pay to play to get into the system. Okay, it's very similar to we had golfers in our family that we would play travel golf and have to pay to play in these tournaments. So you pay an entrance fee, and PGA players do exactly the same thing. They get exemptions, but they all know this. If anybody's ever played golf, like you pay to get into a tournament. If you qualify for the tournament, you still have to pay to actually to tee it up. So you pay that, and then if it's a 4-day tournament, let's say the tournament's $500, and you don't make the cut, that's it. There's like, see you later. Like 2 days into the tournament, it's gone. There's $500, but somebody else that plays for 4 days. So if you're looking at per round, you're like, I just paid $250 a round. But the other players, that's the way it works. So, but you get to pay to play. They just don't let people on the other side of the ropes to play if you don't belong there. That's why the U.S. Open is a wide open thing. Anybody can play U.S. Open if you qualify and you pay the entrance fees, and then you could ultimately play, on Sunday for a U.S. Open title and not have a PGA card. It's fantastic. They're not addressing this because they're being handled everywhere elsewhere. The legislation itself is proof that it's a two-tier system is real and intentional. So it's the UBI system isn't handled underneath this. It's a completely separate animal. So it's not part of this. For my company, position in Clarity World, compliant, documented, institutional ready, and that's the side of the actual opportunity and autonomy. So me, anyway, sharing these elements and things with you, it's identifying that this particular Clarity Act, and then using the AI and saying like, okay, this is the way that we do business. And this is basically what this video is about. This is the way that we do business. And I've done business for 30 years. And I know this is the way that everyone else is doing business in this jungle of earth. And how these heavy players, these institutional players, they set it up. They make the rules, and they do it for their benefit. But when people start to learn their language, they don't necessarily have to sell their soul, like to get into that space. But if you learn the language, you can continue to keep your faculties in your life and your directing your constitution running, but still play by their rules to be inside of that system. And is there a benefit by doing it? Like I said, if I don't have to actually do a contract in blood and sell my soul, then I think it's kind of all right. It's going to be okay. So essentially, what they're doing is they're creating a business financial world that is separated from everyone else. And the reason why they're doing that is not because they want to own everything, but the reason why, this is my opinion, is that it's a language that they want the good people to be able to traverse and move into it. That it's not that they're not allowing you into the space. Um, they're making it more difficult so that the ass sitters that are out there won't be able to come into it. That the ones, when I call them ass sitters, these are the trust fund babies and the people that don't really work, and they have money and they just delegate out to a bunch of different people, and it's uh, not of high intelligence, et cetera. That they're systems people and be like, well, I just need to do X, Y, Z and do these things. Well, this new system allows for not only that type of behavior to happen on the upper level of institutions, but it's spread apart. There isn't like one owner to it. Like, it's like Larry Fink isn't like the main primary resource to BlackRock. He's just kind of like at the head of the helm, right? He's just the head guy. And there's all these other people that are in part of it. And, but the actual functional resources are on the lower tiers below that. In order to make these systems to function, you have to have smaller business to be able to support that. And that's where I come in. That's where I'm like, I want to be part of that. I can be, we're talking about by 2030, you're talking about $2 trillion. So the RWA market is going to be almost as much money is going to be in just RWA as the entire crypto market right now. Okay. It's going to be pretty close to it. So as any indicator, so you're talking less than 4 years of $2 trillion. So by moving into that space, it's the growth of that space is it's like, think of fertile soils, right? So it's just like plant something, it'll grow, and then you'll get fruit off of it. Be like, but just learn the system on like what's the territory, what's the growing cycles, what's the temperature, XYZ. Like I need to know like where this is. So it's like fertile soils in New York opposed to North Carolina opposed to California. There's different times of the year that you have to plant. There's different times of the year. How much water do we need? Is it drought? Is it winter and snow and frost? So it all happens in different. So that's essentially what's happening. So they're opening the doorway into this digital space, this metaverse space, and the soil is incredibly fertile. So it's like in the front end, this is what's so that's fantastic with this. On the front end, basically just about anywhere you put your money is going to be lucrative. Just like it was in the crypto space, is very similar emulation to that. Is when crypto first got started, you could put your money in anything. You didn't have to be, psychic with a crystal ball. Be like, oh yeah, make sure you put it into this. They all went up. Like, this is up to 2021. It was a crazy spike, and everybody just thought it was going to keep going. It's this euphoric thing, but no, it's like that's not the way it works. So with the RWA market, it's a lot more money, and it's going to take a lot longer to get it going. So it's not going to be a flash in the pan like the crypto, the meme coins and things in the crypto. It's not going to be that way, because now you're dealing with real property. Okay. And real property has been very stable over the years, right? It's been you could bet on it, that it has a consistent yield and so on, but there's a lot of capital that's in it. So again, if you think of it as like a ship, it's a very, you're talking like crypto market is like a dinghy. You're talking about the total amount of everything that could be tokenized inside of the United States right now is almost $200 trillion. Anyway, so we're using the AI to be able to say like, okay, based upon each time they come up with a new piece of legislation, and it knows my company and how we do it, and it knows the rules, and it understands all these other elements, I plug it in and say like, hey, look at this based upon our thesis and the way that we do things. What are the things that I need to kind of look out for? Right? It's like the perfect assistant where it knows how you do business. It's like, oh yeah, you are the secret sauce. So what we do in the reservoir is like I share these elements and things on how what we're doing and navigating through this, because a portion of my company's portfolio, we're moving into this space and testing it out and seeing how it actually really works. And then my intention is creating a community that other people will get into the same space, and it's going to be spider webbing and creating. There's going to be so many facets and places for people to make money in it, and I'm interested in learning. There's only so much that I can learn. So there's other things that other people might have interest in, and directions, whether it's different territories, countries, whatever, et cetera. but other things that they might be getting into in this new market in the crypto space. And I want to know about it. I mean, I think that that keeps the flexibility of this newness to kind of keep it going. And the way that we're setting it up is it's free. If you go out and you do the legwork, and then we record it, but we keep it behind our private site. It's free. You can just be part of it because the information of people actually doing real work, not BS AI and all this other crap that people are just regurgitating other people's material, and it's people of low level intellect that are not understanding the larger dynamic of what's going on, that they don't have actual like business background. That's not what we want. We want people that are real entrepreneurs that understand how like business is actually done, and then adding in the element of the digital space and crypto into it, which is really where the open space is. So yeah, it's very exciting. So I'm gonna do my another video here. I'm gonna try to keep them short about like I'm gonna call it AI 2.0, something that we learned about that I kind of caught it, if you will. So yeah, in general, what you can do is use it like as a confidant, the AI systems inside of your business, and be like, well, what do you mean by doing your business? Tell it how you think. Tell it how you, based upon business. Everybody's had business experiences where somebody has screwed you somehow. Like there's been a misunderstanding, and tell the stories, and then you load those things into it, and then you also tell it like, what did you do to rectify it? All right. So you start teaching it your level of problem solving and what you did. Same thing with employees. You say like, well, I want to, I've had an XYZ business. I have this many employees, da, 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 da. And then you can start plugging those things in and saying like, well, yeah, we find that you're basically loading in human behavior. All right. But you're adding in like how your flexibility as a business owner goes into these systems based upon the human behavior that we're having to deal with from everyone that comes into our little bubble of our business. All right. And then that identifies, again, like your level of intellect, how quickly you are able to navigate out of it, how much risk you're willing to take, et cetera. There's all kinds of things that open up when you start telling stories like business stories. I guarantee everybody's got them, and they're all very different. They're similar, but the setups are all endlessly different, and those things are very important because as you have a different risk tolerance, the further that you move through business and life, that as the older that you get, most people are just not really willing to do it. They're like, people don't want to get burned anymore. And when something is new, I get very excited because it's a lot easier. The competition layer is not really a factor. It's pretty much wide open. They let everybody just run amok and do whatever they want to do. And in that environment, as long as you're the one that's writing the contracts, and they're coming to you, you're the bank. That's the my motivation between the whole in this whole thing is that we're the bank. We're the ones that are setting the rules in this new system, which is some of the things we talk about. So anyway, I'm gonna cut this off, and then it'll be this got a number of AI things, but like how to be using this to make it make sense for yourself based upon some of these new elements, things that are coming in. Cheers.